2004, Lead Uganda was formed to provide children affected by war and disease in Uganda with the resources for an education geared toward leadership and community growth, due to one of New York's award-winning journalists, Stephen Shames. And here to tell us about how media can provide change is Mr. Shames. We welcome you to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
No shame in your game.
That's it. That's it.
So tell us about this wonderful organization. You started it back when? What did it say, 2000?
In 2004.
So tell us about your journey through photography.
Okay, I actually started being a photographer in 1967 when I was a student at the University of California at Berkeley during the 60s.
Yeah.
And I was actually, believe it or not, the official photographer for the Black Panther Party. So I started off photographing the anti-war movement and Bobby and Huey and Eldridge and Kathleen Cleaver and all these people and all the things that were going on. And that was actually my start in photography. And since then, I've kind of gone on to really focus on children, families, and poverty and issues of poverty.
What was that turning point?
Children.
What made you want to do that?
I think it was my early life. I didn't have the greatest of families, I'll just put it that way. My parents could have used a parenting program, and I think one of the reasons I'm running programs in Uganda and working with people who run parenting programs is I wish my parents had had access to that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids out there that really need help, and they need somebody else. And what I found is that the most significant thing, I found that in the Bronx, found that in Uganda, the most significant thing in a child or a teenager's life is to find at least one adult who really cares about them.
Yeah.
And is a positive role model. It's easy to find negative role models, but to find a positive role model that can kind of guide them through.
But you have turned the negative into a positive. You started photographing drug-infested areas. Tell us about that.
Okay, in 1977, I started photographing in the Bronx, what became a project that lasted for 2 decades. And the project was, while I was photographing is when drugs, in the early 80s, when drugs kind of came back. First heroin, and then cocaine, then crack, it kind of came back into the Bronx. And this book, which just came out, is called Bronx Boys. And it's about a group of kids growing up in the Bronx, and it really covers them for 20 years. So it actually shows their children. And it's not just about the drugs. It's really about the positive things that were happening. It's about the survivors. It's about kids growing up in a sense. And the way I look at it is that as a child, I didn't lack for money. My dad was a lawyer, but I kind of lacked for good parenting and love.
Love and hugs.
I was neglected. Well, I feel that these kids are kids that are abused and neglected by our society. Their parents might be doing a good job, but the society, I mean, the schools they're going to, the garbage collection, it's the jobs in the neighborhood, you know all the issues.
Right.
So I found an affinity with these kids. They were abused and neglected. I was abused and neglected. They were both lacking. And so the initial thing was to try and get people to just see them. I mean, they're great kids. I mean, there's a lot of love, and you'll see when they, the pictures that are showing, it's not just all about bad things. It's really about they looked after each other. They formed crews. They helped each other grow up. And in fact, a couple of them, the book was actually written by 2 of the kids who were in the book. One of them, Martin, wrote a lengthy text about his life and him growing up, and he's now a manager at a warehouse. He actually made it out. He's got 2 of his kids are going to college now. The other is Jose Munoz, is actually Pancho. We call him Pancho. Still lives in the Bronx, runs a business. He sells radiators, a wholesale.
Yeah.
He has a really nice business. He just bought a house, I think in the Kingsbridge section, and he has 3 incredibly beautiful daughters, and one of them's about to start university this fall. So I think the book's interesting is that it's not just about the drugs and the despair. That's in there. It talks about all that, all the kids who died because of it, but it also talks about people making it through. And it also talks about, the resiliency and the strength that is here in the Bronx.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an incredible borough.
So then from the Bronx to Uganda?
Exactly. Well, a lot of places in between. But in the year 2000, I was in Uganda, and I actually was photographed the funeral of a woman who died of HIV/AIDS, leaving 5 orphans. And the oldest was a 12-year-old girl.
Who had to then take care of the rest of the family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the youngest was an 11-month-old little girl, Sarah. And I kind of fell in love with Sarah and kind of took in that family and just started helping them a little bit. And that grew, I mean, through a number of processes. I first put them in the local school, which is what most people do. What people don't always know over here is that, you know, we have the Millennium Goals for Poverty, which are very admirable and everything. The UN is running that. Uganda achieved them in the mid-1990s. What people don't know is that half the kids still drop out of school by 7th grade.
Wow.
And another half or 2/3 of those who stay in drop out of high school. So if you're a poor kid in Uganda going to a substandard village school, your chances of getting to university and changing your life are very, very, very remote. So I started putting these kids in school and soon realized what was the point. So then I sat down with some Ugandans and we came up with the idea that we were going to train leaders, because who makes change? Leaders make change.
Right.
But if you're going to be a leader, you have to go to the best schools. So we decided we would put these kids in the schools where the cabinet ministers have their kids, where the business people have their kids, where the kings, the president of Uganda, all the top people have their kids, and that's what we've done. 90% of our kids are in these top schools. Half of them are getting A's. We have a number of kids, such as this little boy right here, was one of the original kids at that funeral, was elected head boy of the top school in Uganda.
Wow. And we have a wonderful clip. You want to explain?
We
You wanna
would
bring
show
it
the
in?
clip. The clip is about 2 of our students. Sanyu, who was at the age of 10 looking after this little boy, and her little sister Sarah, who was the 11-month-old I talked about, and Ronald Okello, who was a former child soldier. He was abducted at the age of 9. He killed at least 10 or more people in battle that he knows about. He saw his father hacked to death.
Wow.
And was devastated, lost an arm in the war. So watch the video and we can talk
All
about
right,
that.
let's take a look.
My name is Sanyu. I'm Sanyu, and I'm a student in Lead Uganda.
My name is Okello Ronald.
Lead Uganda is a unique program. It's L.E.E.A.D Uganda.
Lead Uganda is so different, so unique, very different from our other programs.
Because we don't give support to sustain a life, but we give support to change a life forever.
It means that they can go to the best schools.
Means your chances of coming to university are very high.
Then chances are very good that they will be amongst the leaders of this country.
And I know I'll lead this country.
And that transformation is what's really incredible, from going from a village school to competing with kids who have every advantage at the best schools and outperforming them.
The AIDS epidemic has orphaned an estimated 15 million children around the world, and in many communities, when families are broken apart, children can pay the highest price.
My parents died when I was a little girl, and I had to stay home, take care of my little siblings. So it was really hard for me. I was younger and looking after the young kids.
I really thought what I'm going through, I don't deserve to do it, but that's what I had to do, because there was no one to take care of them.
This is Sanyu. She cried a lot. They did not have hope that there would be someone to help, to care.
Joseph Kony and his Lord's Resistance Army rebels have led a brutal insurgency in northern Uganda, abducting thousands of children.
I was abducted in northern Uganda. In the soldier, there's a language which they use. You are there to kill or to be killed. After cutting my father, he collected the pieces and packed it in the sack. That's how I lost my dad.
He's a student who lost his arm during that insurgency.
They shot me on my right hand.
Despite that, Ronald Okello didn't lose hope.
I joined the Lead Uganda, and right now I'm no longer suffering.
I wanted to go, but I could not go to the school. By then, I trusted in God. I said, God, please just get for me someone who can pay my fees. Indeed, God has answered me.
All right, that was a fantastic. I mean, it's very touching and moving, where they put the little kids off to war to head off the insurgency.
Right.
So what we saw there, and what did we miss before the clip froze?
Okay, what you missed is actually what they're achieving now.
Yeah.
So it's sad. You missed that. I mean, they're really doing well. What you missed is finding out that Sanyu is a straight A student and a prefect.
Yeah.
And that Ronald was very traumatized. I mean, his stutter, and he used to sit off by himself and not talk to other kids. Now he just got A's. I mean, he's just this term did really well, and he was elected a prefect, which is like a student body president. So he now counsels other students. So that transformation is what we're looking for. What we do is we take these kids who are really traumatized, and first thing is we give them a family, and they're we have kids from all the different tribes in Uganda, and we've melded them into a family of brothers and sisters. The staff over there's a staff of 6 over there. You saw a couple of our staff members.
Yeah.
And they just do a fabulous job, just really making the kids, giving them a place to be. We put them in the top schools, but we also give them the coaching, the tutoring, and the support they need to succeed. So we'll hire teachers for them during school breaks. Our kids come to school not speaking a word of English. They go to the top schools, all the instructions in English.
Yeah.
And they just do really, really well. And now they're a force to be reckoned with. And our idea is that the way to change a society isn't taking people at the bottom and just helping them a tiny little bit, which is what...
Bring them all the way through.
But bring them all the way through so that they can turn around. And our kids could be a doctor. Our kids could be a cabinet minister. Our kids are trained to start businesses. They could do anything in the world. We have a kid right now. We have a number of children who have received scholarships at university. We have one in India studying information technology on scholarship in India. He went to the Indian embassy in Uganda and said, I want to go to school in India, find me a scholarship. He didn't say it quite like that. He said it politely, but they did it for him. And now he's in India, and he's doing so well. He went for an internship at a company, and even though he has a year left in school, the guy was so impressed with him, he says, you have a job waiting for you when you graduate. Yeah. We have a boy studying pharmacy who had been working in a rock quarry. We have a girl studying business, which in Africa, women, haven't reached like women have here. I mean, it's still a real issue. Women in business, women in government. There's a big lag in Africa in that. Yeah. We have a young lady who's studying business, and she's going to, she'll run a company someday. Yeah. So that's what it's about.
Yeah. How important is the media in highlighting some of the strong points that's happening today?
Well, the media is very important. I mean, the media is like the fourth or fifth pillar of our society. I mean, people watch it. I don't think the media always, I'm part of the media, but I don't think we always do the greatest jobs highlighting, positive things that are going, or even highlighting solutions. We're great on when there's a famine in Africa, we cover that. When something horrible happens in the Bronx, we cover it, but we tend not to cover the families that are really working hard, or covering programs that are making a difference. So I think the media is very important. I've spent my life in the media. I've tried to do this book, the Bronx Boys book. We did a book on Lead Uganda. We run this program there. We use media a lot. I mean, that film, we did that film. We do things like that.
How can more people get involved in this very important cause?
Please go to our website, which is www.leaduganda.org. So it's www.leaduganda.org. The best way people can help is to give money, to donate. Unfortunately, in Uganda, you had to pay to go to school. Schools are not free like they are here. Kids had to pay for their books, for their shoes, their school uniforms. There's no breakfast program. There's nothing like that in Uganda. So the most pressing need is for people to really go there, possibly sponsor a kid, or just give whatever they can. There also is people also can volunteer and help for us too. If they go to our website, they can send an email to us. Our phone number's on there. They could call us and get in touch
Lead
with us.
Uganda, Stephen Shame, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fantastic photojournalist. You're doing great works. We thank you for coming to BronxNet. All righty.
Okay.